All right, guys, let's get into this. I'm just going to unmute everybody and introduce everyone. So we're going to go through non-meat based diet webinar or non-meat based nutrition webinar. And before we start, like, we're not going to get into the ethical reasons behind which nutritional system or protocols you should be following. Today, we're going to be discussing purely health and performance reasons. We're not here to tell people what they should or they shouldn't do, but we are here to help people make some educated decisions, get given some quality information so they can make the best decisions possible for their health and performance. Nothing else. This is strictly non-meat nutrition webinar for health and performance. So let's just, Troy, we just had a little chat there before we went live. We got Ricky here. I'm trying to unmute you, Ricky. If you can just unmute yourself there, mate, and you can say hello. Troy, just say hello and where you're from and tell us a bit about you, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, hey guys, obviously my name's Troy. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. I'm 36. I've been training for the best part of 20 years of my life. It's been a coping mechanism for me through certain things that, long story short, but I love keeping physically active, and I'm always looking for to feel better and to have greater performance. So I guess I watched the Game Changers documentary on Netflix the other night, and it just raised a little bit of wanting me to understand a bit more about a plant-based diet in regards to performance and athletes. I personally, ethically, we were talking about before, I try to source my food and everything locally and make sure it's looked after and it comes from local produce. But I feel like I do consume a lot more meat than what I really need to, and I'd like to just have more of a vegetable style option in my diet for performance when it comes to my training and feeling good about my training and how I'm performing. So I just wanted to learn more because I know you are pretty well recognized in the fitness industry. So that's why I jumped on this, because I knew I'd learn a lot from what you were going to deliver tonight.
Top man, Troy, top man. We've got respect for you already. So the people that are watching this live on Facebook, if you want to get into the webinar, we're running this on a private video. You do need to register. So if you do want to join in, you have to quickly just message me and I'll flick you through the link. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And like I said, we are taking this private. So if you want to join in, quickly just shoot me a message and I'll send you the link. All right. So that's finished. That's gone. All good there. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves? Blair, Bree, and Blair. Anybody else want to say hello before we get started?
Hi.
Hey, Bree, look at you.
Hey.
What's happening? How are ya?
Oh, not much. Just a lit Friday night in.
Good on you, girl. I love it. So Troy and I just had a little chat, and I think you just joined a little bit late. What we were saying was, this webinar is designed or intended to not get into the ethical discussion between meat and non-meat. We're here purely to discuss health and performance. And I want to give you guys some quality information that you can take away and use that to make a decision on how you want to base your health and performance diet. So we're not going to get into the ethical reasons. We're just going to talk about health and performance for a non-meat diet. Troy is a serious athlete over there. He's obviously considering taking a little bit of meat out of his diet and introducing some more plant-based proteins. How about yourself? Where are you set?
I eat quite a lot of meat. Obviously, with comp, I need to be hitting my protein targets, and I find it quite hard to do veggie just because I would love to try it, but I hate lentils, beans, chickpeas, all the things that essentially are so crucial in a vegetarian diet. And those are the things I eat plenty of vegetables, plenty of fruit, but those are the things that I actually don't like. So I think I'd struggle to actually do it. But I watched the documentary that you were talking about, and it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't really know enough about it to make an educated opinion on it, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Blair and Ricky, they haven't unmuted themselves, so we can't get an intro from them. But I don't want to sit here and slag something off and slag that film off. I want to provide information. I want it to be a positive thing. But what I will say is, when we look at evidence that's presented like that, as a consumer, it's our job to look at the evidence as a whole. It's my job as a coach to provide you guys, the consumer, with as much information as possible and let you make your decision, your own decision. So that film, The Game Changer, that was bias-based evidence. It's evidence being presented with the view of a set outcome in mind. So it's like, I can take Brie, put her in the gym, and at the end of a 7-day period, we could present a case that would say weight training builds muscle. We could do that, right? And we could say, look, we went in the gym 7 days in a week and we built muscle. And then we could take Troy, we could put him in the gym every day for seven days. And at the end of the 7 days, we could present a case that says, hey, look, weight training has been proven to decrease muscle mass. But what we didn't present in that presentation was the fact that Troy was in a severe calorie deficit. He didn't hit his daily protein targets. He had impaired sleep quality and impaired recovery. So we could present that. And that's what a lot of people will do. They will present information in a set way to make money or to get people to follow them. And that's the reality of social media at the moment. It is like that. But as a consumer, it's our job to look at everything as a whole and make our own decision on what is right. So let's just get into the material that I have prepared for everybody here today. And if you are on a non-meat diet, there's going to be some absolutely brilliant takeaways, absolutely essential takeaways for you to write down and take away with you at the end of this webinar, that are going to contribute towards optimal health whilst on a non-animal based diet. So get your pen and papers ready. We're going to work through this. It should be about 15 to 20 minutes. And there's going to be some really great stuff at the end. So if I pause for a minute or two, it's just because I'm going through my notes. So when we move away from an animal produce diet, the main difference that we see and the most important thing to consider is total proteins. So animal produce or animal proteins are considered complete chains. Vegetable proteins are what we consider as incomplete chains. So what I mean by that is there are 22 different amino acids which form proteins. So protein broke down into amino acids. Amino acids form proteins. There's 22 amino acids, 9 of which are deemed as essential. The rest are deemed as non-essential. When we say they're essential, it means they're essential to be consumed as part of a diet because the body can't produce them through any other means. Whereas non-essential amino acids, they can be produced by the body. Now, I've been a good boy. I've gone away and done my homework. And I'm just going to share my screen with you because I've prepared a little table to help me explain this a little bit better. And you guys can either take a screenshot or you can just message me and I'll send you this table after the webinar. So just bear with me. So hopefully you guys can see, this is the table that I've prepared. Troy, can you see that, bro?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so we have amino acids. The essential amino acids are listed here and the non-essential amino acids are listed here. Food sources which are deemed as complete: meat, fish, milk, whey, eggs, quinoa, casein. Incomplete protein sources: nuts, seeds, vegetables, legumes, grains, hummus, potatoes. Right, I'm just going to unmute this, unshare my screen now, if I can do that. I'll come back to you guys. Stop share. Right, if you want that table, just message me, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it on replay, just message me and I'll send you that table through. So what happens as an athlete when we're looking for health and performance is, one, we need to make sure that we're getting all those essential amino acids in. And as an athlete and for performance, we need to be creating complete protein chains so we can stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So triggering the leucine threshold where muscle protein can happen, muscle protein synthesis, and we can create muscle growth, needs to be occurred or can only occur when we create a complete protein chain. So how we do this with incomplete chains, and this is what all vegans need to do when we're talking in terms of performance, is create a complete chain by combining 2 or more incomplete sources. So when you look in the shops at vegan protein, what we'll see is you'll see rice protein with pea extract or pea protein with rice extract. And that's because the profile of peas and the amino acid profile of rice combined make a complete chain. So examples of this are pea and rice, pitta and hummus, nuts and spinach. They're 3 examples of combinations that create a complete chain. So if your protein source for the meal is coming just from nuts, then you're not creating a complete chain. You're not providing your body with all the amino acids that it needs, and you're not going to be able to create muscle protein synthesis. Ricky Daniels, I know you're loving this. The next thing that we need to consider when designing vegan nutrition for health and performance is macronutrients. So first of all, as we just mentioned, protein is a little bit harder to come by. So even when we remove animal produce, we still need to stick to the fundamentals of achieving enough protein. And that's not just for bodybuilders. When we say protein, people think, I don't want to be muscly, mate. I don't need protein. But people don't realize that protein is an essential part of the immune function and hormone production. So if we're short on protein, it's going to impact our immune system. It's going to impact our hormone production. So we still need to make sure we're achieving adequate protein levels, which are 1.8 to 2.2-ish, 2.4, depending, grams per kilo of body weight per day. Now, when people remove these the animal source or animal produce, these are food sources that are normally high in protein, and we're left with vegetable sources which tend to be lower in protein, and vegans' overall daily consumption tends to be a little bit lower. I had a vegan that came to me and his daily protein intake was 50 grams per day. Yeah. So he'd chosen to go vegan for ethical reasons, which is perfectly fine, but he hadn't applied enough knowledge to his nutrition so that he can maintain his standard of health, and it was impeding or impacting on his health in a negative way. So if we are going to choose to go a non-meat diet, we need to put the work in and make sure that the diet we are following is adequate for health. So it's adequate for my ethical reasons, but is it adequate for my health? That's the question that you have to ask. Now, for the people that are on this seminar or webinar, I'd imagine you all have a good enough understanding to realize that and know that. But for a lot of people that are just going in or embarking on a non-animal meat produce diet, you have to ask yourself that question. These dietary choices are adequate for my ethical reasons, but are they ethical for my health? So we have to make sure that we're achieving adequate protein levels for the day. And a very, very simple, easy way to do that is just go and buy a vegan protein powder and just use that, because that's a very easy way to get those protein levels up. Next one, carbohydrates and fats. And obviously, as you all know, vegetable sources or vegetable foods, hey Matt, are high in carbs and fats. So when we try to create these complete protein chains, hit our daily calorie target, we tend to really push the carbs and fats up. So that's something that we have to be aware of as well. Things like tofu, good protein source for vegans, but very high in fat as well. So we have to make sure that we're balancing these off. And what I say to vegans is, and obviously I work, probably 25% of my customer base is vegan or vegetarian, so it's very popular, and we work with them a lot, and we get all of them to achieve their health and fitness goals. It's not inadequate at all, and it's not impaired at all. What we have to do is we have to work harder and just be careful that we are getting the macro totals right, because we can end up with very low protein, high carbs, high fats, and then it's very hard to achieve body composition goals. So by combining different sources, this helps us move forward. And the thing that I say to vegans is, when you're at a high level and you are trying to get your macros right, don't stress if your carbs or fats are slightly over or under, because you don't need to be optimal. We don't need to be optimal unless we're really searching for a bodybuilding physique, or we're going on a world stage. That's when we need to tighten it up, and we can do that. But if you're starting out and you're just trying to start a vegan diet, don't stress too much about getting everything perfect, because the reality is, even if you weighed everything to 0.01 of a gram and you got everything perfect, the reality is you could still be up to 25% out. We don't know the exact nutrient value of one apple to the next. And even if we knew the exact nutrient value of an apple, that apple would be slightly different to the next apple. If this apple grew further out on the branch, it would have higher sunlight exposure compared to an apple that grew closer to the bark. So even if you weighed everything exactly, you could still be up to 25% out. That's pretty hectic, isn't it? And another, just to prove my point, if you compare Calorie King to MyFitnessPal, to iNutritionPal, to any other online calorie calculator, they'll all be slightly different. And that's because we never ever know the exact nutritional value of a food. So when vegans are trying to design a diet or create a diet, or if you're a coach and you're trying to design a vegan diet for your clients, if you're slightly out with your macros, don't stress about it. Don't overcomplicate it, because it's not as important as you think it is. The next one is micronutrients. So as we eliminate animal produce from our diet, we're also eliminating a lot of nutrients, a lot of micronutrients. If we're not eliminating them, we're severely reducing certain micronutrients as well. So we need to be aware of this and be aware that micronutrients are equally as important as macronutrients. So when we all talk about health and fitness, or you listen to James Smith, he'll tell you all you need is a fucking calorie deficit. But people don't understand the importance of micronutrients. Micronutrients control your health or determine your health. Macronutrients determine your body composition. Calories determine body weight. So an average coach will talk about calories and macronutrients. A world-class coach will talk to you about micronutrients. And if you don't think micronutrients are important, I'm just going to give you two examples. The first one, magnesium is present in over 300 biochemical reactions, one of which is muscle protein synthesis. 70% of Americans, in a study done a couple of years ago, were shown to be deficient in magnesium. That's not suboptimal, that's deficient. Now, if you're deficient in one micronutrient, that will severely impact the rate at which you can grow muscle, lose fat. Everything that we talk about will be impacted by your micronutrient status. Another example of the importance of micronutrients is this. A calorie deficit will determine body weight, but the health of an organism will determine the rate at which the calorie deficit takes effect. The healthier you are, the faster you will lose weight. The healthier you are, the less of a calorie deficit you need. To use an analogy of this, we know that a calorie deficit achieves weight loss. 100% proven fact. No one can deny that. We know that Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world. Proven. No one can deny that. It's a fact. If Usain Bolt runs a race and he comes last, we know there's a problem. We know that he's injured, and that's what's caused him to come last. And it's the same with the human physiology as well. If we apply a calorie deficit to an organism that's unhealthy, we won't get the result that we're expecting, or it will be impaired. It will be slower than we want it to be. Usain Bolt gets injured, he comes last. Human body is unhealthy. We apply a calorie deficit, weight loss is going to be slow. Usain Bolt gets injured, he gets slow. Human body gets unhealthy, weight loss gets slow. So micronutrients are equally as important as macronutrients when we look at the picture as a whole. And when we're eliminating animal produce from the diet, we're eliminating or reducing important micronutrients that are obtained within those food sources. Another point on micronutrients when we discuss non-meat produce diets is rotation as well. So a lot of vegans will come to me and they've worked out their calories, they've worked out their macronutrients, and they've included the foods that they like, and they're hitting their protein target and they're breaking the leucine threshold. And because it was so much work for them to get this diet plan right, or to get this sequence right, they then stop rotating. They don't rotate their food sources because they've got the formula correct. And they just follow the same plan week after week after week. Very, very limited with their food sources. And again, not only are we restricting the micronutrients that we get from different food sources, we're also impacting our gut health. More variety of food means a better gut microbiome. A healthier gut, again, contributes towards the overall health of the human organism. So we want to make sure that we're looking after our gut health as well as everything else. So it's important, if you do find that sequence and you've got your calories, your macros, and your protein right, we also want to make sure that we're continually rotating those food sources, just like we would with any other diet, any other client at any other time. Food rotations are just as important as anything else. Just another point on that before we move on. This is something I learned the hard way. The human body is very lazy. So if I just eat chicken and broccoli every single day, my body's going to go, I don't need to produce digestive enzymes that break down beef or break down apples or break down carrots because Stephen Arnold isn't consuming them anymore. So I'm going to save energy and stop producing those digestive enzymes. I will just produce the digestive enzymes that Stephen Arnold needs to break down chicken and broccoli because that's all he's eating. And then when I go out with my mates at the weekend and I see a juicy apple and I want to eat that juicy apple and I eat it, I start digesting it, but my body can't produce the digestive enzymes that are required to break that apple down. And I get digestive issues as a result. So for gut health, we want to make sure that we're also getting rotation with our food sources.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On that, how long does it take that adaptation to happen for your body to stop producing enzymes like that?
It would be independent on the individual and the circumstances. For me, it was about 10 weeks. Yeah. I was working with a coach and I just did what he said. We were getting great results. So he was like, I don't want to change anything because it's working. Just keep it all the same. And then after 10 weeks, I started building up an intolerance to the foods that I was eating. So I was like, fuck, I can't eat potatoes anymore. I've got to take them out and change them. Took potatoes out, started bringing other carb sources in. And obviously I couldn't digest them properly either. So it just compounded onto a compound. And I was in a right state. I was at a 9 out of 10 in pain. And I almost ended up in hospital because my digestion was that bad. I was that uncomfortable. It was really, really, really uncomfortable for me. So I learned that one the hard way. And when I investigated it, that was the result. That was the reason. Anyway, one more point, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So with that in mind, with the importance of micronutrients in mind, there's 4 supplements that should be considered by all non-meat eaters or all non-animal produce eaters to make sure that we're staying at optimal health. The first one, I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but we're talking about non-animals. So some vegans may be happy to use fish oil. This is obviously something that has massive benefits. Every human being on the planet would benefit from regular fish oil. If fish oil doesn't meet your ethical requirements or ethical standpoint, then we can supplement that with algae oil. So flaxseed oil isn't as bioabsorbable, doesn't have the benefits that fish oil has, but an equal equivalent would be the algae oil. The next supplement that would be essential for non-animal produce eaters would be B12. So these are just micronutrients that we see vegans or non-meat eating or non-animal produce consuming individuals are lacking in. So fish oil or algae oil, B12. This is important for energy and cognitive function. And interestingly enough, something I discovered just a couple of weeks ago, B12 affects liver function. So for females, if you're struggling with fat retention in your lower extremities, in your legs, make sure that your B12 levels are fine, because if you have low B12 levels, that will impact the way your liver can function. And if your liver isn't functioning correctly, that will affect the way that your body breaks down or detoxifies estrogens. So really important to check B12 levels. The next supplement would be vitamin D. This is another micronutrient that we see non-animal produce eaters are low in. So vitamin D, but interestingly enough, for very strict vegans, most vitamin D produce are made from sheep's wool. So some vegans may not be happy to supplement with a vitamin D supplement. And if we do that, then obviously we need to get sunlight exposure. And this is an important part of overall health and performance as well. And the fourth supplement for non-animal produce eating individuals is iron. And obviously I'd imagine most of you would imagine that anyway. Animal produces are normally tend to be high in iron. So that's the 4 supplements that we would recommend. And just lastly, we did touch on this briefly at the start of the discussion. Troy and I had a good discussion about it, and we did talk about it earlier. I don't want to sit here and slag things off. I want this to be a positive thing about giving information, but I just want everyone to be aware that when we are presented with information which leads to a set way of thinking, such as that game changers, we need to look at the information as a whole. And when we compare a non-meat diet to a meat diet, where we see the non-meat diet perform better is when we're comparing it to an inadequate or an unhealthy meat diet. So when people eat excessive amount of calories or poor choices of meat, such as McDonald's burgers and sausages, yes, these are high in triglyceride fats, transitional fats, and they're always going to perform poorly. When we compare an adequate non-animal produce diet to an animal produce diet, which is adequate as well, they both perform equally. Animal diet and a non-animal meat diet, they can both be adequate and equal when engineered correctly. Neither one is superior. I can't see anything in the science anywhere that supports one is superior to the other. The only time an animal produce diet would perform better than a vegetable diet is if this was designed inadequately, and vice versa. The only time a vegetable diet would outperform a meat diet is if this one was produced adequately and this one was designed inadequately. But if you take the information I've given you today, both nutritional strategies can be equal. Right, guys, I'm just going to see if I can unmute you. Hopefully you haven't got too many questions for me, but I would be interested just to say hello. So I'll just start with Troy first in. Troy?
Yeah, no, that was awesome, man. I guess I wanted to be on this webinar because I know of your background in regards to performance, and I've had a long history of my own athletic performance, and it just raised some questions around meat. Like, I was never not going to eat meat. I enjoy eating meat, but I felt that I could reduce it to somewhat instead of having to have meat with every meal that I have. So I'm glad the way you approach this too. Obviously, you're not trying to slag out anything. You just want to create awareness and information around the values of it. And that explanation at the end there made me think of something in the film. Well, I think they had some American football players or something, and one was talking about how he eats at this chicken place before every game. But, it's like fried chicken and that, but it's completely outside of having a quality, healthy performance diet versus, a plant. The only thing I'm not trying to be typically male here, but the one thing I found very interesting was the doctor that measured all the young guys' erections during sleep based against like having a full, not that I'm saying I have a problem getting it up. I'm just saying it was interesting to see the difference in that versus like having a meat meal before going to bed type thing. Do you have any sort of why those results would be so far different?
Nah, I mean, I'd just have to look at what meat diets they were given the lads before they went to bed. If they were high in transitional fats, and that's a different story. But I just can't see anything where either way is superior, and either way impacts your health in a poor way, unless it's poor meat quality. Or you can have good meat in a shit diet, you can have good quality meat, but your calories are high and you're getting simple carbohydrates in excess. So when they're designed adequately, I just can't see any problems. Like when we look at people like Chad and Jojo, like all these guys that have gone on and competed on a world stage, they've all eaten meat, they've all had regular blood checks, they've all been at better than we could ever expect them to perform on a blood panel. And then they've gone on to a world stage and looked absolutely optimal and got world titles. They've all had meat diets. And I'm not saying that's superior, because my girlfriend and I, what we'll do is we'll do like one meal a day will be vegetable based, or sometimes we do a day a week where it's all vegetables. So I like that and I encourage that. But I just can't see anything anywhere that meat is bad for your health when we look at the science as a whole.
Yeah, and I've never felt run down or anything. So I just wanted to maybe for myself just have a bit more awareness about not feeling like I have to consume meat with every meal for protein, for muscle building, to have that. So it was good to have, just to be have some awareness around it. But the way you delivered this was awesome too. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, your mindset's brilliant. Like, we should always be learning, always be looking and wondering, questioning things and trying new things. That's an open mindset. Brilliant. Whatever you do in your life, you're always going to do well with that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Bree.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, that was really. This is the first one I've actually managed to get on, so it was it was really good actually. I don't do nutrition plans for my clients because I'm not fully qualified in that. I'll set their macros based on their goals, but I do have a client who's vegan at the moment, and she was just asking me the other day because I got her to track for me, and her protein was nowhere near where it needed to be, and she was just asking me for some examples of what she could have, and I was just realised how much I had no idea around the vegan diet and what they should be consuming. Things like the complete chains, like I just had no idea about that sort of stuff, which is good that I'm not giving her a food plan for it. But no, it was really, really good actually. But a question I did have that came up today, because I put up something on my Insta story when I was watching that documentary. A question came up, can vegans do keto? And I suppose they could, but it'd be really, really hard, and I don't really see the point in it. But I just thought I'll go back to the person that asked me about it, but I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
So the only reason that anybody should ever go keto is if they're insulin resistant, diabetic. That's the only reason anyone would ever need to be keto. So where carbohydrates get villainized is the application of carbohydrates. The application of carbohydrates is what causes problems, not carbohydrates themselves. Carbohydrates aren't an essential part of the diet, but to take them out and eliminate them is detrimental to your health and performance unless you're diabetic. So if you want, just message me after and I'll send you a YouTube video that I made on keto and carbohydrates and how to program them correctly and how to determine whether how many carbohydrates can be put into a client's diet, because different individuals can tolerate different amounts, and having the information allows you to program the right amount. But anybody that feels healthier or performs better from eliminating carbohydrates is because they're moving away from incorrectly programmed carbohydrates in the first place. Like if you have a diet with all simple sugars and way too many carbs, of course, removing them is going to make you feel better. But if you program them in the correct way, the right source at the right amount at the right time, they're beneficial to you in a massive way. But yeah, I mean, if you were diabetic and vegan, then you can do it, but you're going to be very limited to what sources you can use, because otherwise your calories and you're going to be all over the place. So, I mean, you could do it, of course. You could just use protein powder, tofu, and whatever, but you'd just be very limited to what food sources you could have. It'd be very difficult, and you'd be very limited, and it would impede on your overall health. But you could do it, yeah, for sure. Andrew Knox.
Evening, sir. I've got a housemate at the moment that is vegetarian due to the whole doesn't just like eating animal products due to just personal feelings about it all. He's actually had major liver damage as a kid and had like big surgeries and stuff all throughout his adolescence and things like that. You mentioned the supplementation of things like B12 and stuff, which I found really, really interesting as like a main four to kind of have a look at. In terms of obviously not having animal products necessarily. Is there anything else that he might want to look at because of the previous liver damage that might be something that could help with improving overall performance?
There's definitely
just in day-to-day life?
Yeah, there's definitely things that you can look at that will to supplement that will improve liver function. Things like milk thistle, and acetal and B12, but I wouldn't want to comment on it because it's medical. I'd want to get the medical records before saying anything. But definitely, if he is in that position, he should go back to his GP and say, look, because of this, I'm concerned about my overall health, and I'd please like to have this checked, micronutrients, liver function, all his endocrinology, get a full panel checked.
Yeah.
And if there is anything that's deficient or underperforming, then just come back to me and let me have a look at it.
Because I mean, his lifestyle was, he was pretty much just eating just everything non-meat product. He didn't have any idea on calories or energy in versus out or anything like that. Came and joined us at the gym, and I've gone over all the base calories and what he should be looking to get each day, his protein levels and stuff like that. The only thing, is that he's actually seeing incredible results. Like you said, he's actually moving away from bad habits, essentially. So bad food usage, because he was having, like he went and had the new Whopper burger that's out, and it's, the vegetarian version or the non-meat version and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, how did you feel afterwards? And it's like, it still felt like crap since I've been eating the good stuff since I've been at the gym, right? Like he didn't actually enjoy it. Like he knew that it tasted okay, but he didn't actually enjoy it afterwards, because it was like, it just felt like 6 weeks ago when he wasn't following good standards. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Great stuff, man. Yeah, just get him to go and get a full blood panel check and just check everything. But it's a bit difficult when it's medical. Hey, Andrew, just before we we leave quickly, just tell everybody how much weight you've lost.
I'm down 90 kilos myself. So I was 180 kilos about 6-7 years ago now. So I comfortably sit on about anywhere from 96 to 98 at the moment, with putting on muscle mass and doing regular strength training and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well done.
Ricky Daniels just texted in saying you're the man. Incredible.
Cheers.
Incredible. Hey, Ricky, I'm just trying to unmute you, man.
Yeah.
Ricky, you're up.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good.
Oh, geez, I'm coming in a bit dark there. Oh.
Probably
Anyway,
best, mate. You got Breeze on the camera in. You got your rig out. Give the girl a chance, mate.
No, that went pretty well. I missed out on some of the information at the start, but
we've got it recorded anyway, bro. You just message me and I'll send it on.
Yeah, protein sources. What are your thoughts on soy?
Yeah, I mean, for soy to be detrimental to your health, you have to consume it in huge amounts.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, like
Alright.
soy, like we all say soy promotes estrogen, and it does, but whether to the point where it's going to affect your estrogen levels, you'd have to be eating it by the bucket load.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've only got one vegetarian client, and by the looks of it, she's under eating. She is obese, and I'm always surprised. I'm always like, man, all you're eating is vegetables, but you're still overweight. But I definitely learned a thing or two that I can apply, and I'll see how it goes.
That sounds like a compliance issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. But other than that, all good.
Ricky, you're all over it, brother. And like I say to you every single time, you've got everything you need to be a world-class coach. You just need the confidence to go out and say it.
Yeah. Cool, mate. Thanks for that.
Shona, let's see if we can get you on. Last one. Shona,
Hello.
how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good, thank you. No, I'm just listening for information. Like, I've been vegan for probably about 3.5, 4 years now.
Okay.
And I've always had a big interest in health and the gym and the fitness and stuff. So I just kind of like learning more things. So I was just very interested to see what you had to say. And so, yeah, I'm good for questions at the moment, but it was actually really interesting to hear about the food rotation part. So I know working with my coach, my food tends to be the same. So he's just given me my macros. So I'm pretty keen to mix things up and swap my food out and create my own little diet as such, which suits my macros, just to kind of switch things up a bit. So yeah, no, I've found this actually pretty educational as such. Most of the vitamins you had, supplements are ones that I already take and I'm already kind of very conscious about. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it so far.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, with a vegan diet, it just, with the rotations, it just takes a bit longer. So I think it probably takes me like 2 to 3 times longer to do a vegan diet at optimal, as compared to an animal diet. So it just takes a bit longer, but it can be done. You know, just less options, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, guys, I'm going to shoot, but I really appreciate you giving your time, jumping on. Troy, it's great to meet you, bro. You got a lot of potential physically. I can see it. Noxie, you're a legend. Ricky, go and be a world-class coach. Bree, send me a message. I've got something for you. Shona, nice to meet you. And if any of you want that table with the complete and incomplete food sources and the essential and non-essential amino acids, just drop me a message and I'll also write in the combinations of vegetables to make a complete chain underneath that as well. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. If anyone needs anything,
Thanks, Dave.
and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.
See you, dude. Thanks.